the Parks and Recreation did a study in 2018 after doing a study in 2005 about the use of land in town. And so basically what they said is, over that time period, I don't have the numbers in front of me, I'm kind of, it's more or less this, but about 82% of kids in high school play sports.
Wow,
and
that's great.
Yeah, which is great, and is keeping kids active and stuff like that. In that same time period, you've seen both an increase in the number of kids in town, youth programs, and also an increase in the number of people who participate in youth programs. And what you see is, for the most part, a sharp uptick in girls' sports, especially girls lacrosse, which over that time period, about a 13-year time period, saw a 48% increase in participation, which is pretty significant. So, I always go to, and I'm like a Lean Six Sigma guy, which is all about trying to streamline things and, eliminate inefficiencies in your business and your day-to-day activity. So, what I would do is first and foremost, as part of Bancroft, Radnor Field would go through an exchange. So Radnor Field is managed by the Board of Education right now. So with resolution of Bancroft, the borough would take over Radnor Field, and then the Board of Education would acquire a strip of land adjacent to the high school, which is on the Bancroft property right now. So by doing that, what you can do is then invest in Radnor Field, and that to me would kind of solve the problem that 2018 survey identified, is that the town needs basically 4 acres worth of property, both active and passive, open space. Active space being defined as like sports, passive is like, a jogging track or a walking track or something like that. Could be like on a hill and stuff like that. So, just by having that exchange gives you a lot of flexibility with Radnor Field to kind of evaluate, how should we best apply or make changes to that using Green Acres funds, which would only pay for about maybe half the improvements that you would be able to do that over time. But it's still, it's someone else paying for it, not the taxpayers. But, I go back to if, let's say the 2018 survey is correct, why don't we do a current survey, which you can do pretty easily by just taking the records of, how many sports teams book the fields, each season and stuff like that, and make sure that 2018 survey is at least directionally true for 2021, and then just kind of for me, do like a Pareto analysis, like an 80-20 rule. So okay, well which seasons, which sports, whatever else are used the most, and if we think this trend is going to continue, then let's repurpose the fields to address that. And maybe we all agree that that spring lacrosse is going to be played by tons of people over time. Okay, well, maybe instead of a soccer field, we make a lacrosse field, and you kind of you put those things in place, be it at Radnor Field or Crows Woods fields or other fields in town. So you put those things in place, and then the next season you say, have we solved the problem? And have we made up that 4 acre deficit or something like that? If the answer is no, and let's say that for 1 month out of the year we need additional space, well then instead of spending millions of dollars on redoing another field, do we spend $1,000 and just rent space from Christ the King or something like that, or from other Wedgwood or something like that, just to allow kids to play sports there and stuff like that. And then if you find that this is an ongoing problem because there's more kids or more sports, whatever the case may be, then you start evaluating what other properties are available in town. But to me, you shouldn't just do a scatter plot kind of assumption to it, saying we have to fix all these problems. Well, actually, let's really try to address what the problem actually is. Measure it, monitor it, and kind of put it in place. The other thing, as we're speaking about waste, is I've heard there's a lot of confusion. It's easier to book borough property than it is Board of Education property, and it's just because it's probably core competency. When you go to the Board of Education, you have to kind of request it, and you're either a Class 1, Class 2, or Class 3 user of it, and respectively. You're either a high school student, or you're either a student, or this is youth sports, or this is going to be an outdoor concert or something like that. So. To me, if you're going to use the space, we should be looking at ways that it makes it easier for people to have the visibility of when these fields are available, book them easily, book them well in advance, and make it where there's not like a lot of back and forth and stuff like that. Because to me, it's just like anytime you have to go back and forth and there's multiple email exchanges and stuff like that, it's frustrating, and it's by definition a waste.
Right. Yeah, I mean, to me, I think, another.
I mean, you've booked these things, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like, you tell me, is it easy or is it?
I mean, I wouldn't say that I've necessarily booked them. I mean, the people that were the commissioners or running those particular things. I mean, I know that it's a challenge, on a consistent basis. I even know just with basketball right now with Bria, just it's a hard time just even getting basketball, gym time. So it's always constantly changing. I think another thing too that is kind of frustrating, especially being a resident in Haddonfield, and we have relatively high taxes.
We do.
Is just like even the quality of the fields. Like it's kind of disappointing where you go to these fields that these kids are playing on, these sports fields, and they're just, to be honest, they're lame. We know we don't have any AstroTurf fields really. I mean, we have the high school and the anniversary field. Outside of that, everything is grass. So I think it's an opportunity to be able to put multiple sports, on certain fields.
Yep.
Like you can, on the football field, they do field hockey, they do lacrosse, they do football, they do soccer. It's, there's a lot of options with that. And, obviously with, weather and whatnot, playing on the grass, it gets destroyed.
Yeah.
From different sports and whatnot. And it's very hard to play certain sports, especially field hockey.
Yeah.
Because it's not a smooth surface. Is there something like that you thought of in terms of like, hey, we need to get another field that needs to be AstroTurf in order to play, particular sports, for kids where they can enjoy it? Because, like I said, especially in the field hockey space, it is very hard to push a ball, hit a ball, carry a ball, pass balls, all those things. Any thoughts on even prepping that? I know it's kind of like a luxury item.
Yeah.
Not necessarily something that's, hey, we need this right now. It's not like, but we go to all the other towns. Most of the other towns, they all have AstroTurf fields, which is nice.
So, I keep going back to, there's, it shouldn't always be a bond. It shouldn't always be like at the, the burden of the taxpayer and stuff like that. There are other communities and stuff like that have done like, public-private partnerships to, to raise the money for these things, or, fundraising efforts, or, charitable givings and stuff like that. Like, I think that, generally speaking, people are focused on these items and would like to, contribute and stuff like that, kind of laser focused on it. So I think that you can invest in these areas, by way of like just having a plan in place that you can have fundraising and givings, and maybe there's businesses that want to participate and stuff like that. But certainly you want to have a plan in place to do that, because to the earlier point, if you're going to make this investment, because it's not just a one-time investment, that you make the investment here, and depending on the use of the field, to get a lot of use, you may get like 10 to 15 years out of it and stuff like that. Then you have to kind of like, reinvest in the, the turf itself and stuff like that. So what you want to do is have, a plan in place that you think that it's capturing where we think everything is going to be going, in the future and stuff like that. So you're investing in the right turf for the right sports and stuff like that. And, and that way you don't have to have the same conversation a decade later saying, well, gee, no one plays lacrosse anymore. Now they're playing a sport that we've never even heard of yet.
Right.